What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Thank you very much for joining me here on Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture podcast. Happy to have you here where you can listen in the Anchor app in podcast form in your favorite podcast catcher, or on YouTube. Just search for Pretty Dece, and you can find all of the past episodes that we have shot. Now, I'm wearing my Justice League hat, as you can see in the video version, because I want to talk to you about the Justice League movie. Just got a chance to see it, and, it has been maybe getting some mixed reviews in the press, and maybe hasn't done the box office sensation hit that you would have expected it to do, but I certainly loved this movie. I thought it was really, really good. I think that I actually even liked Justice League more than the first Avengers movie. It's very easy to compare Justice League to the Avengers because it's bringing together all of these disparate superheroes into a big team, and they have to fight some massive evil. So they do have their parallels there. They are very similar, and this one had the extra added trouble of it also had to introduce us to all of these characters. When the first Avengers movie happened, we knew who all these people were because they'd mostly been around in their solo movies, and this was just joining them all together. Here we've gotten flashes of these characters, no pun intended, but we really don't know anything about them. We've just seen them pop up in Batman and Superman stories, but we haven't really seen them do anything as of yet. So this movie not only had to bring the team together, figure out how they all work together, but also teach us who these people are, what their characters are, what their motivations are, what their backstories are. There was a lot that it had to get done. And honestly, it gets it all done. It really it doesn't feel too quickly paced, which is often a problem when a movie has to get a lot of origin stories like that out of the way. And it does such a good job on that because we kind of just move along. Everyone knows who the Flash is. We don't have to spend a ton of time on how he got his powers or what he's doing right now. We just sort of hit a few of those beats, and then we can move right on. It is the way to do a movie for a modern comic book movie audience. People don't need to see hours of origin stories over and over again. We're good. Let's move on. Let's talk about these characters. And that's kind of why I really like this version of Batman specifically so much, is because he has this kind of 20 years on the job history. He's old, he's done it, and we don't have to figure out like why he's Batman, what he's doing. He's very well established, and then we get to do cool little things like his interaction with the police, his interaction with Jim Gordon and the Bat Signal. Well established. We don't have to go through the process of like, oh, how do we contact, and like all that stuff. It's there, it's done, everyone knows what it is. We don't have to spend any time on it. And then you get to like reference past things. Like there's a cool little bit where they talk about the Penguin, because it's been 20 years. Batman's been fighting crime for 20 years. He's definitely going to have come across the Penguin thus far. So I really like this kind of tired Dark Knight that we have portrayed by Ben Affleck. And then just to kind of run down the rest of the characters, Wonder Woman, portrayed by Gal Gadot, I think was maybe the weakest of this movie, and that's not to say that she was bad by any means. She was very established. We'd most recently had her solo movie, so I think the Justice League film just spent the least amount of time on her because we didn't have to explain as a character who she was. We knew a lot about her. So she just kind of got to do a little bit less in terms of character development in this movie, but she was still fantastic. She kind of becomes the heart of the team, and in a few points the kind of de facto leader, despite the fact that Batman is there. And then, of course, we have Cyborg, portrayed by Ray Fisher. Cyborg, I'm touch and go sometimes on liking Cyborg. Sometimes he feels like he doesn't have a personality, and here he started out very brooding, but he turned it around. He had a reason to be brooding, and then I liked that he joined up with the team fairly quickly, and I like his dynamic on the team as well. And specifically in the Justice League movie, they kind of mix in that like he's very tied to the threat that they're fighting. And they are kind of unsure of him because of that. They don't know how much he's controlled by the bad guys and by the thing that they're fighting, because he kind of is a part of it, but then he also ends up becoming their salvation because of that. So I think that's a really cool angle, a really cool direction to take Cyborg, and I really liked him as a character. Jason Momoa played Aquaman in probably what is the best iteration of Aquaman that has ever existed. Aquaman is often extremely lame because he's just a dude that hangs out in the ocean and talks to fish. And this was the very, very butt kicking Aquaman. I really loved his interactions with Batman, his kind of like his humor, the fact that like, oh, Batman dresses like a bat, and that's great. I love it. And he just kind of became like the jock on the team, which I think is a really cool angle. And I like that he felt mostly removed from the kingdom of Atlantis. He was kind of a loner from everywhere. So he was just kind of like this man between the surface world and the water world. And I think that served him well as a character. I love that they took these liberties with Aquaman, made him this, big, buff, like tough guy, because it did wonders for the character, and it made Aquaman an actual interesting person to watch. And then finally, we have Ezra Miller as the Flash. The Flash was my favorite character in this film. He was kind of filling in the Spider-Man type role, where he's a fish out of water. He's out of his element. He has no idea how to be a superhero. Even says in the movie, the most he's done thus far is kind of run really fast and knock some people over, and now he has to fight this like galactic threat. So he's often joking, he's often very scared, he's often very confused, and he is fantastic. Ezra Miller does a fantastic job as that role, as that fish out of water. And also, when he does actually have the points that he steps up, you get the really cool like Spider-Man like thing where he mixes his science with his super heroics, which is the really cool thing about the Flash. The Flash is a very smart dude. He's into science. He understands all of these things. So those two characters do share a lot in common, and they leaned on that for this movie. But I really, really liked it. I was left after this movie desperately wanting a solo Flash movie, which they kind of set up for with some of the things that happen in this film. So it will of course definitely happen as this franchise goes on, and I am pumped to actually get that solo Flash movie. And then, of course, it was the worst kept secret in movie history. Superman makes a return in this film. So the manner in which they bring Superman back around is interesting, because it gets a chance to show how insanely powerful Superman truly is. And boy, is he. I love that they, got a chance to show, despite we have this whole team here, Superman kind of nullifies all of them. He's the linchpin of the team. He's the most important member of the team in terms of power levels. And I love that they got a chance to kind of just like let him rip on that. There's a point where the Flash thinks he can kind of run around behind Superman and get the jump on him, and in slow motion you see Superman slowly turn, and that's one of the coolest moments in the film, when you see the Flash realize that Superman is just as fast as he is. Very cool. And of course, having Superman as this massive power level, having all these heroes together, brings us to kind of the one big problem with this movie that's not inherent, or that is inherent to kind of all of these superhero team up movies. And so it's not just a Justice League problem. It was a problem with the Avengers. It's just something that you have to kind of get around or figure out how to navigate. And that problem is that when you bring these superheroes together, you have to have a reason to have everyone team up, right? They're all used to fighting on their own. They're all used to dealing with their own problems. So the thing that brings them together needs to be this huge problem on a cosmic scale. It needs to be this massive, like, world-ending threat that is either this like ancient danger, or this cosmic danger, or an alien invasion. And the sheer, the sheer size of that, the sheer scale of that, makes the bad guys a little less interesting. For example, in this movie, we have Steppenwolf, who is this kind of unknowing like character who we don't find out much about other than he's evil and he's tall and he has this horn hat, and we know that he wants to kind of enslave slash conquer the world. And that's cool when they get to punch him because it looks neat, but when you really get down to it, there's no character development there. You don't understand his motivations other than kill, kill, kill. So it becomes a little less interesting. And the first Avengers movie definitely had that, where they had the, alien invasion and they had to fight this giant army. And it's cool watching them get to just blow up like guy after guy after guy, but you don't really have any connection to any of these villains. Now there is an after credits scene, an after credits scene that sets up the conflict for the next Justice League movie, and that gives me much hope that the next movie, the villains will be much better. We'll actually be able to understand their motivations. We'll actually be able to, in a way, sympathize with them. Which will be much better than this kind of ancient force that they have to take down, like they had in this movie. But that is a minor complaint, and again, that's something that's come up in all of these team up type movies. Something that they just have to get around, something you have to write around, and I think they did well enough here, but still fell into that trap just a smidge. But overall, I loved the Justice League movie. It is fantastic. If you've been on the fence about going to see it, definitely go check it out. You will love especially all of the character development and inter-character relations that happen in this film. DC has set up a wonderful first film in what will hopefully be a very long franchise. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Make sure that you like Pretty Dece on Facebook, facebook.com/PrettyDeceShow. Of course, follow me on Twitter @PrettyDeceShow and visit PrettyDeceShow.com. So I'll be back, as always, tomorrow. Until then, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a daily episode.